Hello there everybody, what are you doing? So I'm SuperSonicBlur, and today we're going to be looking at a slightly different video. Now, to anyone who has been playing Smite or following Twitter or anything like that, you're going to know that Smite Season 4 Ranked has been what can only be described as abysmal. People are getting placed way too high, way too low, and it's just been a complete shambles, for lack of better words. There are people placing in places that they shouldn't have been placed for no reason. People are still trying to work out exactly why it is. People have theories and ideas, but at the same time, we still have a situation where people who are in bronze have been ending up placed into diamond, simply put. And whilst this video is going to be about ranked, this video is not going to be talking about that. There are more than enough people talking about that. A good person I could recommend is DukeSloth. Go look the guy up. In fact, actually, you know what? Links in the description down below to DukeSloth. Guy's great, so if you don't know him, check him out. But basically, I just want to talk about some interesting points about ranked. And that isn't necessarily changing the matchmaking system, though that does need work. This is instead going to be talking about something different, and that is the requirement to play ranked conquest. Originally, this started off as the requirements being 16. You needed 16 because back season 2, what it was that you used to have 3 bans and then you had 5 gods picked. What this essentially meant is that no matter where you were in the match, you would always be able to have 1 god. So for example, there's a GIF that's on screen. You have, or I'll show you an image on screen. You have the first person picks, or you have ban 1, then another ban, then a pick, then 2 picks. I don't remember exactly what it is, but the essential thing is you have 3 bans each side and 5 picked. That means that there are a total of 16 gods in play. Because you can only play gods that you have mastered, 16 is the bare minimum that you require. However, let's actually stop and think about what that means. That means that you have had to play at least 16 different gods to mastery 1. That does not mean that you have had to play a set number of gods in each role. That does not mean you've had to play anything specific outside of 16 gods. But aside from that, we can understand. This just means that is the bare minimum that you're required to play. We can talk about how the concept of that means you could pick every single hunter, play them to rank 1, and then maybe, I don't know, we'll say Kronos, Freya. And those are the only gods that you have mastered. I don't know whether that's 16 or not, but that's aside the point. Basically, what we're saying here is that you literally have enough gods to play one thing. If you don't get that one thing, too bad. Is essentially what we're saying here. But now let's look at what this means for now that there are 4 bans. By there being 4 bans, this means that now there are in fact 18 gods in the god pool that get picked out. If you have 16 gods mastered, it is very easily theoretically possible to determine and say, you get banned out. You cannot play anything. If you are one of the last 2 picks, you can't play anything because everything gets picked out. If you are the last pick on Chaos side, you may end up in a situation where you get out. You end up in a situation where you just can't pick anything. And yes, this is very, very it's a stretch to say it, but it genuinely is a thing. If you think about it, if you just do the numbers, you take 2 bans, then 1 pick, then 2 picks, then 2 picks, then 1 pick. By the first, the first phase of banning, which is 2, 2, and then 3 each side, you've already gone through what, 10 gods? 10 gods, and you have 16 mastered. That is not good. That leaves you with 6 possible gods to play, of which there are now still a potential time for 4 to get banned and 3 opportunities for your last 2 to get picked. That just doesn't work. Now let's also talk about exactly how many gods in Smite there are. As it currently stands, in 4.2, there are going to be 85 gods in Smite. What exactly does that mean? Well, that means that there are 85 different characters that are available for play. If we're going to go with ranked, then there's going to be 84 gods available for play, because the newest god is never available for play in ranked, just so that you can get balance adjustments, any bug fixes sorted, and so that before they go into ranked, they aren't broken, which as with most things in Smite, when something new comes out, it's usually broken. Be that in a good way or a bad way, it's debatable and usually one way or the other. But, that being said, 84 gods, and you have to master 16 of them. Only 16 of them. Doesn't have to be anything specific, just 16 to Mastery 1. That means that there are less than 25% of the gods mastered and you can play ranked, a competitive game mode in which you can be picking for other people. And it does suck. Sometimes you will be in a situation where you're like, can you pick me this? And if you don't have all the gods masters, you can be like, oh, you know, I can't actually pick that. I've had that happen to me before myself. I had about 50 gods mastered, and someone said, hey, could you pick me Anubis? And at the time, I didn't have Anubis mastered. So I thought, yeah, I'll be able to do that. I've got 50 gods mastered. And when it came to it, I realized, oh no, wait, I can't. I actually can't pick this. So as a result, you limit yourself so hard by saying that you can play less than 25% of the gods in the game. And that in itself presents a huge issue, especially in ranked, just because you end up in a situation where a lot of people can get very competitive over ranked, and you end up in a situation where a lot of people can feel very tryhardy over ranked, and they want to be able to play well, they want to do good, and it's a competitive game mode. And to be fair, I actually will agree with them. If people constantly say, you know, why are you tryharding in casuals, go play ranked, you cannot then get upset at them for tryharding and playing seriously in ranked, because after all, it is ranked. This is the place where people are supposed to go to be able to competitively show that they have improved, that they are of a certain skill level. But being able to go into it with 16 gods mastered, Mastery 1, really doesn't show or set up this as an idea. Not only that as well, but 16 gods mastered means you have them at 50 worshippers. That does not mean that you have played that many, you have grinded out that many games in Conquest. That means you have earned 50 worshippers on that god. When asked about how it feels for masteries, Adapting himself turned around and said that around sort of level 3 to 4 is an idea for where you want to look at to say, well, you've mastered something, anything more than that is just experience. So from this, for coming from a player who's a very high skill level, someone who's turning around and saying, Mastery 2 to 3 is sort of a, I've got a grip and an understanding of a god. Mastery 1 really doesn't seem that impressive by comparison. Not to mention as well, with the worshipper boosters and worshipper boosting events, you'll find that people usually will use those to grind out diamond masteries because, you know, everyone wants that. But by doing that, you essentially say that you have put in half the effort to earn that many worshippers, which in turn diminishes the value of what masteries are. So, let's say that you spend a weekend doing double worshippers and you play arena the whole time. Maybe some people activate boosters as well. You can get 30 worshippers in a match. That is more than half of a mastery, and you've played one game with that god. Do you honestly really believe that that one game determines you to be able to say that you are having an understanding of that god? It doesn't matter how poorly you did with that god. You could have fed your brains out and gone 0-104, as someone on Xbox did. Actually, that was quite a funny picture. It was a Bakasura. But aside from that point, you are turning around and saying that after one game, regardless of your scoreline, regardless of how the game went, regardless of what you built, regardless of how you leveled, you are in a situation where, having earned 30 worshippers, you are more than halfway to mastering that god. And then once you do that 16 more times on any other gods, you can go and play ranked. That is not acceptable for the player base of ranked, and I do genuinely believe that this is part of the problem with ranked, is you have a player base that is going into ranked that I genuinely do not believe is ready to play ranked. And as a result, not only is the matchmaking strained because it's having a hard time placing people, but it's also having to pick from stuff that isn't great to begin with and then trying to sort and do everything. So no wonder the matchmaking system is under such strain it is, because being able to get into this situation of playing ranked is so easy, and there is literally no requirement outside of what was originally something that just meant you mathematically weren't going to get banned out, which now, as we've said, you physically can get banned out, because there are 18 gods picked and banned, and you have 16 of them mastered. So, how exactly is there any way that we could necessarily fix this? Well, there are a couple of options, none of which fully have a decent sort of progression to them. One of them is to say that you play X number of conquest games. By doing this, this would enable you to, at the beginning of each season, be able to turn around and say, instead of saying for 10 days we're not going to put ranked up, and then having ranked be an absolute crap show for the first X amount of days because every pro is flooding the game and any other randoms, and so as a result the elo gets messed, you just turn around and say you play X number of conquest games, be that 50, be that 25, whatever. But having that, especially at every season and every reset, enables you to turn around and say, hey, you are going to get more acquainted with the meta and how things work before you go into ranked. The problem with this is it's very much the same problem that masteries have. If you play mastery, if you grind worshippers on a god, it doesn't matter whether you win or lose, you will get those mastery points. You could spend the entire time playing Neath and lose every single game, but eventually, you will earn enough mastery points, or worshipper points, to have earned a mastery on that, therefore meaning that you'd qualify to use that in ranked. The same thing happens here in Conquest. By turning around and saying that you need to have played 50 Conquest games, that does not mean that you have played 50 Conquest games and done well in them. As a result, this kind of limits the idea of saying, what's the point of playing 50 Conquest games? The other option is very similar to this, and that's saying win a certain number of games. The only problem with winning a certain number of games is that you end up in a situation where if you say win 25 Conquest games in this season to then play ranked, you then have the whole show of the same thing that all of these special quest things do, where it's like, play a certain number of games of X, or like play a certain number of games of Clash and win them. The problem with that is you then end up in a situation where people get very distressed, very upset, and far more annoyed at people for just playing the game. So as a result, that comment of, why are you being so try-hard and whining and bitching at these people, this is a casual, go play ranked. Well, the problem is, you then can't go and play ranked. So ranked for Smite is in a very awkward situation, but I do feel that it definitely needs some form of actual entry requirement. Having 16 gods mastered is not enough. And that is the long and short of it, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any suggestions or anything, by all means, please leave them in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think about ranked, and whether you think there's any way that you could improve it. And if so, how you would do that. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, my name has been SuperSonicBlur. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and favorite for more, and to share this stuff so people know that it exists. You guys have been a fantastic audience, and I shall see you all next time.